Hello dear students, this is Business Research Methods and Project Work course tutorial. This is tutorial 2.4. The topic of this tutorial is selection of research methods. And in this tutorial particularly I am going to discuss upon observation method. The learning objectives in this tutorial are to understand the observation method, to learn different types of observation method, to know when to use observation method, to know the limitations of observation method. Observation is a purposeful, systematic, and selective way of watching and listening to an interaction or phenomena as it takes place. Observation is one way to collect primary data. In this method, the researcher needs to record the things that are being observed. Recording of observation is done through various methods. Some of those methods are narrative recording, using scale, categorical recording, and electronic recording. In narrative recording, the observer records the things in a descriptive way. In the method using scale, the observer use or develop some scale, and on that scale what is being observed, so that is rated. For example, say the observer is observing some personality traits of individuals, and there some personality aspects like confidence, dominance, intelligence. So these are the aspects where the researcher or the observer has developed some scale. Scale means a measurement scale, and there after observing the things, the observer will rate or give score to the various aspects of those personality. Then in categorical recording, the observer develops some categories. As I have given in the earlier example, there, while observing the personality traits, the observer or the researcher need to develop some scale also. But in case of categorical recording, those aspects, there the researcher develops some categories. Say for example, same example, like intelligent. In intelligent, the various levels of intelligence, so the observer will make some categories like intelligent, average intelligence, then below average intelligence. So these are the three categories the observer has developed. Similarly, in case of confidence, high confidence, low confidence, or average level of confidence. So these are the categories that can be developed by the observer or the researcher. After observing whatever is observed, so there the observer can record the things very easily. In electronic recording, the things that are being observed are recorded in some electronic device or electronic means, and if in future those things or those observed things need to be stated or the things need to be researched again, then the device can be played and the things can be recovered again by the researcher or by the observer. So that is electronic recording. In qualitative research, narrative and descriptive recording is mainly used, whereas in quantitative study, observation is recorded in categorical form or on numerical scale. Now, the question is when to use observation method. This method can be used to understand how something occurs in its natural setting. Observation may be suitable for the researcher when the researcher wants to learn about the interaction in a group, ascertain the functions performed by a worker, or study the behavior or personality traits of an individual. This method is also appropriate in a situation where full or accurate information cannot be elicited by questioning, because respondents either are not cooperative or not aware of the answers, because it is difficult for them to detach themselves from the interaction. Observations can be made under two conditions. One, natural setting, and the other is control environment. Now, when observing a group in its natural operation is classified as observation under natural conditions. So here nothing is controlled by the observer. Control environment, in this situation, the researcher or the observer introduce a stimulus to the group so that the group react to it and the observer observe the reaction. So that is called control observation. Now, for example, say some advertising agency is developing an advertisement and they want to taste the advertisement whether the advertisement is becoming humorous or not. They are thinking that they are much giving humorous content in the advertisement, but they want to taste it. Now, in that case, they ask a number of people to come in a particular place or in a room, and there they show the advertisement to those people, and after showing the advertisement they will ask the respondent that sorry, they will not ask, but they will observe how they are reacting, how their facial expression change or how their body language change. So through those, the researcher or the observer can find out whether the advertisement is becoming really humorous or not. So in this example, the advertisement, that is the stimulus to the group. So this is called control environment. Let's discuss various types of observation method. There are basically two types of observation method based on the participation of the observer or the researcher. So first is participant observation. Participant observation is when the researcher participates in the activities of the group being observed in the same manner as its member, with or without their knowing that they are being observed. The advantage of this method is that the researcher spends sufficient time with the group or in the situation and thus gain deeper, richer, and more accurate information. Now, for example, a researcher wants to study culture, rituals practiced by some community. That time, the researcher can visit the village where the community live, and there, in the time of festivals or maybe in the time whenever they practice those things, that time the researcher is living with the residents of the village and thereby observing what things are practiced by the people of those community or that village, and that is called participant observation. Since there the researcher become a member of those group of people or those community, and thereby observing the things. Now, in participant observations, there are again two things. One is non-disguised. Non-disguised means it is known to the people who are being observed that the observer is observing them. And without or the disguised method, that is opposite to non-disguised form. In disguised form, the researcher do not disclose or the observer do not disclose that uh, he or she is observing the things or studying those things, or maybe in not disclosing the introduction of the researcher or the observer. So that is called disguised form. Now the second type of observation method is non-participant observation. Here, non-participant observation is that when the researcher do not get involved in the activities of the group but remains a passive observer, watching and listening to its activities and drawing conclusion from this. There are various limitations of observation methods. Some of those are when individuals or group become aware that they are being observed, they may change their behavior. So this is in case of, particularly in case of participant observation. The use of observation in such situation may introduce distortion. Then there is always possibility of observer bias. So observer may give interest to those things where observer is already carrying a notion, a strong notion. The interpretation drawn from observation may vary from observer to observer. So this is another problem. Then there is a possibility of incomplete observation and or recording. An observer may watch keenly but at the expense of detailed recording. The opposite problem may also occur. It means if the researcher or the observer is observing the things very keenly, that means giving too much importance while observing, so that time maybe the recording may be neglected, and after that the observer may not properly recall the things also what is being observed. Or the reverse may also happen. Say the observer is giving importance on recording, and since the importance is giving on recording, so some moments may be missed or some things they are left to be observed. So these are some of the problems associated with observation method. So in spite of all this limitation, observation method is found to be one of very good method in social science, especially for studying social phenomena. So it has been found to use in many kinds of researches, especially in management, then some social sciences and many other fields. So with this discussion on observation method, I'm concluding this tutorial. Thank you.